Hi, I'm Kiran Dhanjal-adams, and I'm going to be talking to you about using supervised machine learning to automatically detect and classify calls. So I work with Ariana Strandburg-Peshkin as part of the Communication and Collective Movement Group, and I'm affiliated with the Max Planck and the University of Constance. And I work on this project called the Communication and Coordination Across Scales project. And so as suggested, we're looking at how groups of animals move and how communication helps coordinate movement. So as part of this project, we're using a case study from the Kalahari Meerkat project with Marta, Manser and Tim Cludden-Brock, where we have full groups of meerkats tagged with audio and GPS collars, so we can link communication and movement. And this is also run by a large field team. So as you can imagine, by having multiple groups tagged with audio collars, we generate a lot of data, and analyzing these large data sets can be difficult because it requires a certain amount of manual labor for hundreds of hours. And as you can see also, the data is quite noisy. We can hear a lot of digging and there are animals calling quite faintly. So let's listen. There's one call. Another call, another call, and another call. So analyzing these types of data sets can be challenging, but we have tools available to us to facilitate the task, and one of these is machine learning. So how does machine learning actually work? So what it does is it takes a group of homogeneous data, runs it through the machine, and the machine tries to put it into classes. So in this case here, this would be green circles, purple circles, and orange circles. And in the case of audio data, this is taking large spectrograms of audio data sets, running them through the machine and trying to extract particular call types. So what's actually happening under the hood? This is research that we're doing in collaboration with Roch. So take a spectrogram, and even a low resolution spectrogram, we can still see as humans that the spectrogram is made up of particular lines in the image. So for instance, here we can kind of detect 4 horizontal lines, some sort of vertical line, and then we can abstract this to learn that 4 lines might make up a move call. And for the machine to do this, what it does is it uses something that we call a convolution. And a convolution is basically a filter. And a filter is applying a matrix of numbers, so -1, 1, and 0 here, to the image. So we apply this filter to a corner of the image, calculate the dot product, and create a new pixel. And then what we do is we just slide this filter along, calculate the dot product, and then have the next pixel of the image. So we can run over the entire image this way to then get what we call a convoluted image. And basically this image is now picking up on horizontal lines in the original spectrogram. And by going through this process again, but instead of calculating the dot product, we calculate the maximum, we can then incrementally start extracting information from this image. So the horizontal filter will help us pick up horizontal lines. But though the machine learning doesn't only apply one filter, it applies multiple filters to the image. And each one of these is extracting different aspects of the image, such as horizontal and vertical lines. This abstracted information is then put together, and the machine uses this to make a decision of what call type is encoded in the image. So in this case, we have multiple call types, such as social, close call, short note, and move calls that we're wanting the machine to detect. And we can see each row represents a call type over time. So we can do this, for instance, also with short notes here, where the machine's trying to pick up on 3 tilted lines to make up the call. So what's nice about this is when we generate these large data sets, we only need to label a subset of it, where the labelers, of course, identify the spectrograms and say what these spectrograms correspond to. So what call type is encoded within each spectrogram and how it changes over time. And this is what's used to train the machine learning algorithm. We can then take a different set of data, so for instance, from a different color, generate a spectrogram and run it through the machine. And this produces a prediction, which is basically of different call types over time, which is really nice because we have labeled data set. We can then compare this with human labels. So to look more closely at this, on top we have the machine, and at the bottom we have the labeler. You can see, for instance, here there is a short note that was correctly classified, a social call that was incorrectly classified, a bit of noise that was incorrectly classified, and we can go over the entire data set and count these. And we can sort the calls that were correctly classified or incorrectly classified into a confusion matrix. And this is some work that my colleague Mathieu will be talking about after me. So we can then generate these larger confusion matrices that aren't just thinking about call, not call, but also thinking about different call types. So each row represents the label, and each column represents how that was classified by the machine. So for instance, here we have 94% of close calls that were correctly classified by the machine as close calls. We have 95% of move calls that were correctly classified as move calls. And we have 92% of alarm calls that were correctly classified as alarm calls. So overall, these all have a classification of accuracy over 76%, and many of them are actually doing a lot better in the 90s. So we're quite happy with it. So machine learning is a flexible tool for analyzing large data sets and can be applied to different species to understand how communication and movement shape each other. So I've talked about meerkats, but we're also working with coatis and hyenas as part of this project. And I would like to thank all my collaborators.